Hello beautiful people, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lexi and in today's video I am finally, after like 3 or 4 months, doing another reading wrap up for you guys because finally I have read enough books to actually warrant doing a reading wrap up. So to kind of catch you up to speed, January I read 1 book, which I'll talk about in this video. February I read no books because I was busy as all get out. March I had spring break, so I had some more reading time, but shockingly, I did most of my reading the week after spring break, but I was also super stressed throughout March, so I think I just got into like stress reading and I grinded out 5 books in like the last 2 weeks of March, but I have books to talk about either way, so I am very excited to do so. The first book that I read this year, which kind of hurts my soul to say, but the first book that I read this year was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy, which I do now have all of. I really enjoyed Chain of Gold. I loved the sort of like Bridgerton-esque romance, but still like set in the Shadowhunters universe, so they were obviously like fighting demons and everything. And I really liked the premise of Chain of Gold and like this like storyline it was setting up for this trilogy. I loved it so much. I love Chain of Iron too, even though it did take me like an entire month to get through, because they're thick boys. Like, they are very large books, and I am a person who does not have a lot of time on my hands, so you know, it took a while, but it was worth it in the end. I really loved it. I can't wait to get to Chain of Thorns eventually, probably soon, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. But I did finish Chain of Gold, like I said, all the way back in January, skipped February. Here we are in March. I have 5 books that I finished in March, the first of which being Chain of Iron, which is of course the second book in that trilogy. I loved this one even more. I did think there was like a twist with 2 characters like starting a romance arc that didn't need to be started. I'm gonna try to not spoil anything, but I didn't think it needed to happen the way it did. I didn't think it needed to end the way it did with the romance part of it anyway between 2 characters, but you know, whatever. There was like no build up for it, but the rest of the book was absolutely incredible. Lucy and Jessie are like 2 of my favorite characters in the entire series. I also really love Anna and Matthew. They're just great. Everyone's great. I loved it. I want to read Chain of Thorns really bad, but I also want to read other stuff really bad, so we'll see which one wins out in my brain for whatever I pick up next, because I did just finish a book today, so I do need to pick up a new book soon, as in like probably today or tomorrow. But that being said, I did not have Chain of Thorns at the time of finishing Chain of Iron, so I did pick up a couple of other books. The first of which being Nick and Charlie, which is a novella by Alice Oseman, of course. She is obviously the author and illustrator of Heartstopper and a bunch of other wonderful novels. And Nick and Charlie is set in that same universe with the same characters of the same name. And it's just a cute little like slice of life novella. I read it in like an hour. It's very tiny. It's written almost like a children's chapter book, but I loved it. It was just a good little heartwarming novella. It was so cute and it made my brain happy, so 5 stars for that. I finished it super quick, like I said, and it was just a little pick-me-up read after the heart-wrenching Chain of Iron. After that, I picked up, against my better judgment, the last book, or not the last book, but the most recent book in the Adventure Zone graphic novel series. It's The 11th Hour. I believe this is the 5th one. I could be mistaken on that, but I think it's the 5th arc. And obviously I loved it. I love the Adventure Zone. I love anything the McElroy brothers put out, and I guess their dad as well. But it was great. It was a little bit harsh on my bank account, but it was great. And it made me happy to read because I love the Adventure Zone and I love any time I get an excuse to dive into that world. After this, I picked up a book called The Shadows Between Us. I forget who it's by, and I don't really care that much. I picked it up at Barnes & Noble expecting it to be like a dark romance, and sort of like, because the plot, like the book cover, it was all about murder and intrigue, and I'll get it for you. Okay, so it was The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. And I'll just read you this like book preview thing. Alessandra is tired of being overlooked, but she has a plan to gain power. 1. Woo the Shadow King. 2. Marry him. 3. Kill him and take his kingdom for herself. No one knows the extent of the freshly crowned Shadow King's power. Some say he can command shadows that swirl around him to do his bidding. Others say they speak to him, whispering the thoughts of his enemies. Regardless, Alessandra knows what she deserves, and she's going to do everything within her power to get it. But she's not the only one trying to kill the king. An attempt on his life is made. She finds herself trying to keep him alive long enough for him to make her his queen, all while struggling not to lose her heart. After all, who better for a Shadow King than a villainous queen? So I read that and I was like, ooh, murder, dark romance, intrigue, plots. I'm gonna love it. There's gonna be like morally great characters or even just like outright bad characters, and we get to read from their perspective, and it's gonna be great. It was not. It turned into another basic YA. I'm not like other girls. And then they like fall in love, but like good love, not like dark, intriguing love. And it was just kind of boring. Overall, like I still wanted to finish it because I wanted to like get the mystery solved or whatever, so I didn't DNF it, but I wouldn't say this is more than a 3-star book if I'm being generous, because a lot of it was just bland. There was almost no world building. There was like very little character arc. It was just sort of telling the story as it happened. There wasn't like a whole lot of growth or anything. I still can't tell if the Shadow King is evil or not, because there was like parts of it where it was like, oh, he kills anyone who gets close to him, and like he's a dark king, whatever, like he doesn't care about his subjects. And then there was parts where he's just like a little happy-go-lucky fella who loves his dog, and I was very confused about his character the whole thing. Like, I don't know, I just had a hard time vibing with this book, so it's definitely a 3 stars if I'm being generous, but probably realistically more like 2. And then, finally, the last book that I read in March, I finally got to Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco, and boy, oh boy, was I hooked. I finished that book in a single day, pretty much. I had read like 4 pages before, but pretty much a single day. I loved it so much. I wanted to do everything in my power to read the rest of it as quickly as possible, which I did, because the same day that I finished it, Cassandra gifted me the rest of the series for my birthday, which was very convenient because I had brought it over to her house to read. So it worked out, and oh, I have some thoughts on that, but I'll save that for my next reading wrap up because I just finished the series, and wow. But I absolutely adored the first book, and it just like wrapped me in from the beginning. I liked that it was set in Italy. I don't think I've ever read a book set in Italy, which is weird, but the world building was great. The characters were great. I loved the names of the characters. I loved Wrath's character just as a whole. He's great. 10 out of 10, do adore him. Kind of gives me like Rysand mixed with like Matthias from Six of Crows, like a little bit of both. And I am here for it. Top tier. I am here for it. I loved that book. 5 stars easily. I really wish I would have read it sooner, but not really, because I'm glad I read it when I did, because it like pulled me out of a reading slump. Top tier. Thank you, Kingdom of the Wicked, for that good time. And then, like I said, I just finished the series, so I will be talking about that in a later video, but that's for another date. And that is going to wrap up this wrap-up. I do hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, you should definitely leave a like, because it's easy. Subscribe for more content just like this. Comment because it makes me smile. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, friends!